Hi there, Randi Gren here. Let me tell you a little story. Today is a 3-7 day, and a 3-7 day comes because it's the 3rd of December 2017, and if you take the day on itself, it's a 3, and if you add up the numbers, it gives a 7. So it's a 3-7 day, and a 3-7 day is a quite significant day because this is the day where the board members are meeting up to discuss what is going to happen on our planet. So this is the good question. So we are having a board meeting here, and the board meeting are all of the different factions that are participating in the big business called Earth. Earth is a business. It's a big business, and we have a board where different factions are meeting up once in a while and discussing, okay, what's going to happen, what is going to unfold, and how do we put the parameters for what we're going to do next year, and what is going to kick off on January 1st, and how we're going to do this. And there are different factions present there. There are the remains of what's called the Black Syrian races. These are typically the ones we refer to as the Dark Ones. Then we have got the military factions, which are enhanced humans, primarily with Orion, Aldebaran genetics. These are typically the ones that stem from the Nazi projects that unfolded in the 40s and 50s. These are slightly human, but not really human. They are more kind of a human species with a Hydra kind of thing in their heart field. So they are what we typically call the real bad guys, the negatives. These are what I call the military because they are warriors. Military means soldier, and they are per definition from some of the soldier races of Orion. And they are a huge player in our reality, control different levels of our reality, and these are typically the ones we are seeing in the sky if there are crafts and this kind of stuff. So these are some heavy players that are still here as well, having got their share of this reality. So they are in the board as well. Then we have got what I call the monetizers. These are enhanced humans that are primarily in what we call the trade pillar. They are mainly here just to trade off stuff. They're not happy about me talking about them because there are some big players here, and they are the ones that are typically behind every faction on this planet that is earning money inside this reality. So they are a huge player inside this reality, whereas the military is more kind of having their own part of this reality outside. They're not really interested in humans here, but they are kind of still using it in a way. So they are stakeholders, so to speak. Whereas the monetizers are very, very strongly represented inside this reality. So that's kind of their jurisdiction, so to speak. And they represent many different races, so they're not just one bunch. They are, they're just still kind of not very eager to present themselves because they are enhanced humans functioning inside this reality. Then we have got the other enhanced humans that are kind of working outside this reality in a different kind of adjacent pocket. And they are also they are mainly the ones that we kind of call the scientists. They are functioning outside this reality, but they are working through majority of scientists that are inventing new stuff, especially within cloning and gene splicing and all these kind of things. These are mainly the factions there, trying to create a new type of human vessel. And they are enhanced humans as well. They go back to the 70s and some of the rogue nations that broke off there, some of the early enhanced humans, not under the military projects, but on a kind of military. When I talk about that, and I talk about the Orion and Aldebaran guys, but the normal sort of military, the ones that kind of work with the Cetas and some of these type of grey races, which then have worked their way out of it and are not under control of these anymore, but more kind of with some other types of Syrian races outside our system, parallel realities, because the Syrian system is not just inside our reality, there's a parallel version of it. There are multiple versions of each and one of the races, so we can't just say, oh, the Syrians is all like that. It's actually not that. It's kind of, it depends on which level of our reality they come from and which universe they come from and which version of them, future, past, present, and these kind of things, including the polarities that are also going on. So we are having different versions of the same races. So it's a matter of discerning between, is this the positive or the negative, so to speak, or which duality we're talking about. And these are still wrong words because negative is not correct, positive, negative is not correct, and duality is not correct either. Polarized realities where you have different versions due to the timeline event. and some of the old wars. And then we have got some of the remains of the brotherhoods. And of course we have got that faction that's called the Baals represented, and they are primarily the ones that are running the Vatican and the Christian subcurrents that are still going on. And what have we got more? We have got then we got the representatives from outside who are here as well, trying to figure out, okay, what are we to do with the business down here? What are we to do with the planet Earth? How are we going to do this? And this is the big question. What are we going to do in the years ahead? Because much have changed down here. Many of the old factions that used to be here under the trade pillar are gone. And the reason why the monetizers are not eager to present themselves is because they screwed that one up tremendously, literally selling off everything. So they did not actually live up to their part of the bargains that were made in the 60s. So they kind of screwed up their part a little bit, like the little boys that are now sitting in the board, kind of, okay, yeah, we screwed up, but yeah, okay, we don't really know how to go from here. So that's the monetizers. They sold everything off in their eagerness to earn money and prove themselves, because these monetizers are kids from some of the real old big players, which you know as Rockefellers and all of these kind of stuff. So these are the children of these, and even though I call them children, they are grown-up men and women, but they are offspring of some of the real old players, which were the original type of enhanced humans that used to be on this planet, that goes way, way back to the old settings and the original colonies. So we have some old players and new players and incoming players and all of that, and I call it players. We could also call it businessmen and women, figuring out what to do with our planet and humanity and how things are moving on, because a lot of things is going on as we're speaking. And that is because some of the things that you can kind of say it's a big machinery, and some of it runs automatically, and some of the automatic programs and stuff that run are not really working well due to the different stakeholders and what they wanted to create inside the business. And at the same time, we got the ones that are kind of not interested in changes. These are the Black Syrians. And then we've got the ones that kind of got what they need outside, so they don't really care, but they're still here and they're still using for their own benefit here and there and whatever. These are the military, the Orions. And then, of course, we got the fuck-ups, the monetizers, and the Vatican is kind of, yeah, they're just here because they're an old human race. The Baals, very old human race. They have teamed up with different factions, but they are kind of diminishing, and the Black Syrians are diminishing as well. So these are not the most important players anymore. They used to be, have been for a couple of thousand years, but they are kind of losing their power, so to speak. So we got something positive and we got something negative, and if you want to use that expression, we got the polarities going on. And polarities are a matter of a consciousness type. It's a consciousness type of how you want to progress. And progress means you can progress in what is called a polarity universe, where they got what we understand as positive and negative, but it's so misunderstood. Because if you are inside what we call the dark pillar, which is also totally wrong, but if you are inside the dark pillar, your progression there is harmoniously in sync with that progression way of progressing. And everybody who's in there are enjoying that tremendously and having lots of fun there. So it's not that they're all about mini-me evil schemes to take over the other side, that are just choosing to do progression in a different way. And these are some of the things that we really, really need to wrap our heads around when we are talking about the stakeholders in our planet, on our planet, and what all humanity are waking up to. So that's the first level of understanding. The first level of understanding is that per definition there are no bad guys. Per definition there are no good guys. Per definition there are stakeholders. Stakeholders who have different opinions of how to run the company. And I've been thinking about quite a lot, how am I going to express these thoughts to you? How am I going to teach you about these things? Not teaching, but kind of inspiring, put it that way. How am I going to inspire you into the understanding of this reality as I see it, of course, as I see it. And in that, kind of inviting you in to participate in a more active way. Because you can kind of say there are different ways of awakening. And these ways are important for us to understand. Because it all depends on your template, and it all depends on what type of being you are and what you came here to do when you came here a long time ago or recently or whenever you came here. It all depends on why you're here. Why are you here? Why is your template connected to this physical form inside this physical reality when there are plenty of other realities out there where you don't have to have physical form? And you can say, oh, I was forced in here and all these kind of things. It's kind of, yeah, you could say part of the company has been working as a little bit of kind of worker-slave structure. That's some of the old ones. But that has changed over the years. It's not that important anymore. And yeah, you can say that some of the old templates were sealed off as a punishment and put here from some of the wars. That's also part of it. And then there are ones that have come in as tourists. That's also part of it. Then the ones that have been invited into the company from some of the other stakeholders that had part of it when they had their time, so to speak, and were invited in here and chose to integrate different types of genetics and seals and TGs and stuff, technologically enhanced genetics, taking them out and making them go into oblivion, all depending on what they wanted to play out inside which of the pillars that they wanted to participate in. Because by definition, there are two pillars in our reality: trade and war. But these are not that strong anymore because this is old stuff. And this is where, when we do our awakening process, we have to be really sharp in what is past, what is now, and where do we want to go with this. So in terms of what are we going to do with the company called Earth, how are we going to move that forward? I've been thinking about, okay, how am I going to share with you what I know in a way so I will not pull in the past, because we don't want that one. It's been done already. Don't want to go there. We have had the AI futures, the dark futures, the shitty futures, the Third World War. We have had it all. It has already been played out. We don't need to do that again. We don't need to do that again. And it has taken us all out over and over and over again. And we have been drained in our templates, and we've been drained of energy, and everything just kind of ran down to the ground because of it. So we don't want to do that again. We have a beautiful company called Earth. We got a lot of resources, we got a lot of stakeholders, we got a lot of good stuff going on, and there are big markets out there where we can participate. And since business has always been my kind of, this is where I find the game most interesting, and that's in business, not the trade pillar, because that's a little bit too controlled. That is the races that chose in this polarity universe. They didn't want to do the war pillar in the past, so they chose the trade pillar, where everything is done in agreements and jurisdictions and rules and laws and boring stuff. But that ensured them that they weren't dragged into the war pillar, which was very, very strong at some point in time, which I should know of because I've been kind of playing on all the the levers there, battling the bad guys and all these kind of things, which are not bad guys per se. It's a kind of game, and it's fun if you want to develop your template in that way. And that's also when we come in terms of where we're going from here. Those of us who've got the very, very old templates, we know that it's just a matter of what reality you participate in, when you participate in it, what you want to develop, how you want to develop, and if it's fun or not. It's all a matter of experiences. And you can say, oh, she's a bad guy, oh, she's what? No, you're a bad guy too. We have all played all of these different roles. The question is, where have you positioned yourself now, and what are you equipped to do now? And it's a matter of saying, if you, for instance, are an American soldier, and you have been in the Iraq or in the wars in Iraq, and you were there as a soldier. You were participating there under the contracts of wanting to do good, because that is what your government had told you. Your government had told you that this story was the right story. This was the right cause. You were fighting for this cause. And you participated because you wanted the experience. You wanted the money. You wanted to build a different life afterwards. You wanted to make a change in the world. You wanted to do good with being a soldier under that parole or that agenda. And you signed up and you participated and you killed other humans. Does that give you transgression? Does that make you a bad guy? These are some of the things that when you come back from war, you think about it and you think, have I actually transgressed? I killed other humans. I heard their screaming, I heard their pain, I heard them dying, but I was doing it for the right cause, I thought. And then afterwards, when you came back home and normality is there and everything's kind of a little bit boring and humans are around you and you have changed and everything is different, you think to yourself, was this the right choice? And in that you can say, per definition, there is no transgression because you were participating in a game where everybody knew the consequences of it. And while you were in it, that felt right and good for you. But when you retracted and came out of it, that is where the other reality comes in and begins kind of saying, okay, you put things in a kind of frame of reference. You change your perspective, you shift, and then you see things differently. And then you think to yourself, okay, either you pull yourself down in blame and shame and pulling everything out of yourself in that blame and shame, or you begin focusing on, okay, I've got some experiences. How can I work with these experiences? How can I do things differently? How can I, for instance, some of the ones that are going really strong on this one, they go back, but then they go back as negotiators, they go back as diplomats, they go back as teachers, they go back as whatever. And these are some of the things that are coming in our reality on our planet now. These old souls that have been around for quite some time in all of the realities, and they are coming in, as well as new ones and a lot of other stuff, coming in and looking at this planet as a business and saying, okay, guys, you have messed this up. You have played out all the possibilities there are to play out. You have done everything you felt was right for you to do. You have participated in the different parts of what this reality could unfold, because our reality can unfold everything. This is what has been so interesting about coming to this universe. And this is also what has taken it out, literally, because the experimentation within the polarities have been too far. There has been too much progression, so to speak, in different realities. And that's also why some of the remaining races that are here trying to control it so they won't go into full oblivion, or they won't regress totally, or they won't burn out. Because all of this experimentation, which has been good and fine, it all had its purpose. It has taught us a lot of stuff, all of us. But the unfortunate side of it is that it has kind of run the company down a little bit. So now we need to think about things differently. And this is where the changes come in. And this is why when people are talking about, oh, the bad guys want to do the Third World War and the extinction of humanity and all these kind of things. Yeah, they still want to do this. But they're not very eager to do so. That's the military Orion faction. They're kind of a little bit like, as I see it, I know they can do it. Of course they can do it. If they want to do it, they can do it. But what's the point? What's the point? Another planet gone? Another humanity gone? Where will they get their energy from, literally? So for me, it's a matter of, no, they still have got some interest in keeping this planet going. So the interest for the rest of us is to make them understand that we want to create something different. And that's the board meeting. And the board meeting is a problem because when you have stakeholders that are kind of old school and they have been using this planet for their own services and their own products and their own markets, exporting quite a lot of things from this planet, using humanity to do so, they are not very eager to let go of this. And then we have got the ones that are really strong in here, and they had traded everything off, which is not very, very positive either. So it's all a matter of the other very, very old races coming in and saying, okay, guys, girls, guys, everybody, okay, people, how are we going to do this? How are we going to run this company? And in that, there is the big question, what about the children? And children's humanity outside, everybody outside these board level, the ones that are in the top and the ones that are in the bottom of the pyramid, because this is a pyramidical structure. The ones in the top are the ones in the know, and the ones in the bottom are the ones that don't know. The ones in the bottom that don't know are called the children. And the question is, what do we do about the children? That is the big question. That's the whole kind of disclosure kind of thing. But what is disclosure? And what level and how preparing this? And that is where there's been a lot of attempts to do the hidden disclosure in movies, in information, and all these kind of things you've been experiencing in the last 30, 40 years. This has been part of some of what we could call the disclosure, the slow preparation for the real reality. The unfortunate thing is that including in all of that so-called disclosure has been a lot of disinfo, has been a lot of false information, and that is because of the negative ones, the ones that want to take energy. Let's put it in that, call them that. The negatives are the ones that want to take energy. The positives are the ones that want to add energy. We can use that way. That would be a good thing. So the ones that want to take energy and still have their company in a stronghold and still export and trade off stuff from here, they are the ones that are not very eager to do any forms of changes, and they are also the ones that have been put a lot of information out there that has actually added more to the energy harvesting side of things, has linked up large portions of humans to the other polarity, which is not supposed to be that strong, because polarity only works if there's a balance. So this is also some of the issues that the negative, the ones that are taking energy from our system, which we see as dark because it's sucking energy, they are the ones that they have kind of grown a little bit too big since 2000, way too big, and that exponentially has grown and grown and grown, which means that they have kind of chucked a little bit too much of the company, and in doing so they are beginning to deprive the company of its currents, which is not good. So they need to be pushed back a good share, and they know that. The polarity makers, they know this. This is a part of how you share a reality in a polarity system. And then you say, share? Yeah, because you're two sides of the same coin. If the taking energy side gets too big and too strong, they suck everything dry and go into a black hole, which will take themselves out. They cease to exist. So of course they're not interested in that. So they are being pushed back, and this is what we're doing now. So the other polarity side that's giving energy and is interesting in giving energy is coming in. So this is also what's happening, and that's part of the activation process of humans, but it's still that balance between which of the polarities that are the strongest, and that is why they've got the push back and forth, and that has been going on through several cycles and loops and timelines, and I call them code streams, to be more correct, because by definition there's no timeline, because by definition there's no time. That's a little triggery. So whenever you do your energy work and say, I'm clearing myself, I'm on timelines, you're actually not clearing anything, because there is no such thing as a timeline. There's past, present, and future, which is a kind of setup of your template, as in kind of how it moves in spirals and these kind of things. But these are some of the little hidden things you will figure out eventually. So it's a matter of kind of that pulling back and forth. And as you know from the Greek mythology, the gods have always had their funny battles, the enhanced humans. So there are no gods. Get that thought out of your head. I'm just referring to mythology. And then there are the children, the normal humans, so to speak, the human projects that have been part of this planet for a very, very long time. And I'm going to say something here which I do not agree with, but this is how it is perceived. The human projects down here, the normal human, is a merchandise. It's a product. And it's a project for the original full human races and other races of benevolent factions to begin with, that wanted to create new human lineages, to progress and develop into new systems. And they seeded, as we call it, the consciousness genetics into the grids here, the planet, the solar system, which was a thriving system at the time, with the purpose of developing a lot of new human races. And you know that everybody's been talking about this. It's just a matter of how do you perceive this. And a lot of stakeholders were invited for the project, because some of it was of course for some of the stakeholders at that time that had depleted their own systems from genetics and human forms, and in that needed new human forms, which participated down here. Then there was the ones that kind of polarity wars had got too dark and had depleted themselves and were going into black holes. They needed new human vessels as well. Then we had the ones that wanted to progress and positively generate new humans, which were not dying out, but they have moved on into new realities. So they participated as well. So we have all of these different factions that participated in the original business called solar system. Our solar system, not just planet Earth, but planet Earth is what's left right now. So the other ones are a little bit dormant, because the ones that came in to begin with, part of the board, were not very good at agreeing on how to run the company. So this is why I prefer that analogy, because that's the best way to go around understanding that this is a reality, and a reality is run like a company, and the stakeholders are the different factions. And at the same time, there are a lot of stuff going on in different realities and different parallel universes, and we are part of all of this. And they are run in different ways, and they are not necessarily run as businesses. So we don't have to say that that goes for everybody. This is an analogy I'm using so you get the picture. If I were living 2,000 years ago, I would have used some kind of religious understanding or whatever was going on, or doing the Joshua kind of thing, talking about that the kingdom of heaven and God knows what. But this is not, because that were kind of where you had the Roman Empire and you had the whole kind of kingdoms and kings that were running the reality, which were part of the Jewish reality at the time. So we're using analogies for all of this, and the reason why we're using analogies is that so we won't create it. So if you're kind of saying, okay, this is a little bit holographic, a little bit fantasy-like, it's because I want to inform you without creating it. So this is why I'm using this type of old teaching method or old sharing method of information in a kind of energetic way that is neutral. And it's a little bit kind of fantasy-like, so in that it won't manifest, because that is some of the other things that's very important as when we talk about how do we create a new future, how do we run this company. And this is also why you get a lot of information in movies, a lot of information in cartoons, a lot of information in all of these kind of fantasy settings, science fiction and all these kind of things, because nobody really can agree on what are we actually going to manifest into the human project, our reality, where the manifest physical forms are. The stakeholders have not agreed on that one. And that is why we still have the pulling back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, because nobody really knows, okay, what future we're going to choose as the one that we're all going to participate in. And that has been part of why there's been so many different futures already played out in different code streams. And they have played out energetically, they have played out physically as well, yes they have. And they have also played out kind of just in simulation programs. There are different versions of this, because they have created different stuff to figure out, okay, which one is the right future for this company, which one, where do we want to go, and which market do we want to bridge into, and who has the main right for the human projects, the human vessels, because we all participated in it, quite a lot of races. So, and since they haven't agreed on that one, and things have kind of got a little bit out of hand, and all the different playouts and different scenarios and different futures that didn't go right and didn't go wrong, or did go wrong and didn't go right, or did go right, and all these kind of things. And when they did go right, the human projects shifted out into other realities, leaving behind the ones that didn't work very well. So they were left behind, and they got a little pissed about that. So that's also some of the reason why they're a little bit, the Orions and some of the Black Syrians and these negatives that are taking energy sitting there. You just left us behind, you didn't take care of us, you just went on your own and then left us here to rot in our own energy. You promised. It's a little bit childish. But that's also some of the things that are playing in. So we are talking about things that where we kind of within the dark ones and the military and these kind of things, we have got some who's on a high level and a big of an understanding of things, the very old souls. But they're kind of moved on because they could. They had played their part of their polarity level, and they've moved on because they got what they needed. So now they want to go back to the other universe because they're tired of being the dark force, they're tired of being the dark ones, Darth Vader, being tired of being that one. No, we've been there, done that, we kind of played that one out. Let's go back and do the other stuff. That's much more fun. So they have reverted and gone back into the positive one, beginning to give off energy. They've done their redemption. They've cleared themselves out. They have given over the last couple of years, activating a lot of people in doing their redemption work, which is kind of, yeah, okay, the dark ones, actually the ones, the majority, that's actually awoken most of the people on this planet. Yeah, they have. That was their redemption work, and now they're gone and they're out and they've done their part of it. So we are left with the more not so advanced ones because they haven't been able to move out. Sorry. So these are some of the things that we're dealing with, and this is where when we wake up and begin doing our activation process, it's a fine line. not between love and hate, but it's a fine line between not getting sucked into the past realities that didn't work, which is the majority of our genetics because they've been used there. So that's part of a template. We call that the distortion layers. And some of that needs to be cleansed out. Most of it don't even go there. Because it's a matter of weird programs, weird inner illusions, weird stuff, weird. And we can't really use it now because that's part of the past. Past wars, past idiotic decisions, past betrayals, past everything, past stupid ways of being, because the negative energy sucking force have had a little bit too much strong, a little bit too much part of this reality, and that we don't want to do. We have learned from it, that's all we can say, and now we need to look forward. And then there are the human projects who have no idea whatsoever that this exists. They have no idea of inner realities. They have no idea of different cycles. They have no idea of enhanced humans. They have no idea that they are part of a big universe with parallel systems that for now has been kind of closed off and shut down so we can't see them. They have no idea of any of this. And these are the children. So what I'm here saying is that, okay, the ones I'm talking to, you are the ones that are in the process of activating, and you already got a lot of stuff from memories and bleed-throughs, and a lot of things are happening in you already. And I've been kind of thinking, okay, how do I address this? How do I work with you? And how do I get what I know, and how can I share what I know so you kind of get an understanding of what you know, and we can team it up and kind of build up a common understanding of what this is. And at the same time, each and one of you are totally individual. So a general type of this is how to do cannot be made because it all depends on your template. Why you're here, what your purpose is, when you came, what you did to your template when you came, which realities you've been participating in, and what is stored in your template. So anything, any activation work, anything that you do has to be totally different. And that's why some of the things are the whole kind of, you're running a company here where you got the children who knows absolutely nothing. So then we have to take care of. It's literally like kind of saying, okay, they are the youngsters. We will have to protect them for now because they don't know. So those of us who are activating, who are in the know, who have run through some of the programs and the activation, all depending on where your template has been used from the different factions running the company, that all determines what type of activation process you're going through. If you have been sold off to the Orion military, your template will probably have participated in quite a lot of their programs, the Nazi programs. And that's unfortunate because that has made you a kind of super soldier, negative, not so good, and that is something that you will have to clear out. There will be a lot of dark stuff you will need to clear out in that activation process. And this is where we have kind of gone in and said, okay, let's try and clear out the programs they have been using to mind alter you, so your energy setting is kind of in a specific way, so you activate a specific type of genetics that enables these factions to use your template while you're sleeping and while you're not awake and while you're not activated or anything in different realities. And these are some of the things that when you begin your activation process, you need to fight back to get that back yourself. But negotiations are going on because that is not going to help our reality that these templates activate. These are called the reversal ones. It's not for any good for anyone. So plans have been made and are being made, and these programs are being cleared out. So you won't activate into these levels, and attempts are being done to restore these templates from within, which is some of the negotiations going on. And that means that some of the negatives, they are kind of saying, the ones that are taking energy, they're kind of saying, okay, we let go of some of the things that we own, because we can see it's for the greater good, and we are, at the end of the day, we know that we can't stay inside the negative pillar, because the negative pillar has one way, and that's down. So everybody knows at some point, okay, it's been fun and I need to get back out, I need to go to the other side. And this is where, as talk about the cross programs and all of these pain and strife and whatever, these are the early attempts to assist in some of the races that participate in the negative polarity, to get them out through activating the heart and all of these kind of things, which would build in more light, which would make them understand what they were doing, and in that begin the redemption work, and in that beginning to move out of the dark pillar. However, since the dark pillar has kind of got very, very too strong, different things have to be set up in the game, so to speak, between these two polarities. And this is what is going on now. We have to do things differently. And that means that some of the positive side and negative sides we have to negotiate or bend towards each other to create a new balance. And then at the same time as the old souls revise at all if the polarity games are to be taken out in full. And that is probably what is going to happen, because after have been done that and doing that for so long, and it literally leads to absolutely nothing, and the ancient ones have kind of already, the oldest ones have kind of already experienced all of that and has discovered that it leads to absolutely nothing. It's just a matter of what we could call a remaining stubbornness of the remaining races that are inside the negative polarity, because they have kind of, it's like if you see it with people who have earned a lot of money. It's kind of, yeah, you earn zillions and billions of dollars and you can only give 2 million for a project. Why don't you just give 60%? You don't need all of that money, you don't need all that energy. Give it off, come on, give it off, give it back. Create something good with it, do something, create a new world with it. Instead of just giving these lousy 10% of your income, give off much more. If you wanted these 8 people in the world that are kind of having all of the wealth in the world, if they decided to kind of team up and work together, add in their money, we could change the whole world in one go. So why won't they do that? Because they're all polarity players. And they have kind of got a little bit, yeah, I earned this. I played in the games. I earned this. These are my money. I earned it. It's my energy. I earned it. I fought my way through and earned it. And that's what is running these dinosaurs, because that's what I call people who are kind of a little bit too square in their mindset. So that's some of the things that these enhanced humans need to kind of get the understanding of. Okay, I earned all my money, I got it. But it's difficult when you have your own ways. As you say, it's difficult to teach an old dog new tricks, right? So this will take a little bit of time. It will also take a little bit of time because they need to understand that most of the futures they have played for here in some of their projects here with the human projects, which they have groomed in a specific way, will not pay out. And they are waiting for these futures to unfold more so they can see if they actually succeeded. And that's to be understood as, and they have invested in projects. They have been doing things since the 40s. And these projects are not fully paying off yet, so they can't really see if they have solved their issue with their own dark universes. And those of the other factions that kind of comes from the positive side, they know that these projects won't work. They know that. They've already seen it. Because there can come nothing good out of dark energy. Dark energy is dark energy. It will remain dark. It will only go into evaporation. But the negatives, the Orions, the Dark Ones, and these kind of races, they have been doing a lot of stuff, including the crystalline Sirians, including the different teachings that have been giving, including the hybrid children, including the new children, including the crystal children, including all of their projects. And they are waiting for these children to grow up to see if they're actually going to create that future where they can get out of the pillars and go back into these human vessels, which are the children they have created, the hybrids. That's their plan. They want to get out of their dark pillar and into this reality where they can begin evolution anew, because that's our world. When you go in a physical form here, you can begin all over with your evolution and your progression journey. So they are waiting for these prodigies, as they call them, these children to grow up, and they have to become around 21 before they can begin going in, bridging in through their genetics, which they've inserted into these children. And then they will shift from their energetic holographic form inside the dark pillar, which is mainly Today, mainly energetic. There are not many manifest realities in the dark pillar. Only the Orions are some of the few that are still able to manifest themselves and in craft and stuff. And that's because they've been stealing genetics from everybody in their areas. Pleiadians, Arcturians, God knows what. They have been raiding systems for genetics. And that's why they can still manifest. And that's why they're seeing themselves as so strong and that they can do this. And their new children will, what I call the Nazis, will unfold, and they will be able to shift from the negative polarity into these children and begin their evolution all anew here in these new forms. So they are feeling quite sure about themselves. Then we got the other enhanced humans that have kind of also got their children here, including the crystalline children, the new children, and the breeded children, and the hybrid children, and God knows what, where they have made all of their genetic experimentations going on with these templates. And they've got their share of humans as well, but also kind of people in their 20s and 30s. These are part of these projects from the 70s. And they're also quite sure that their contestants will make it. They have made a lot of survival programs, running these hybrids through a lot of inner stuff that has kind of been very, very confusing. But they are quite sure that their genetics will survive and create the solar nations. So they are also waiting for their projects to unfold their future, which they're quite sure will unfold. Then we have got the Black Seers, the Dark Ones, who have got still a fair grip of quite a lot of the old businessmen in this reality. A lot of the big things that we are kind of, the conglomerates, the consortiums, all of these kind of big companies that are just exploiting everybody and earning money. They still got a pretty big part of that one, teaming up with the Baals. Kind of, they got a president somewhere, right? Two actually, and quite a lot of the world leaders are part of that faction too. So they've kind of got everything in order there. So they're also kind of say, yeah, no, we got things in check. We got things in order now. We got our share too. So they are not eager to give up either. So you see, that's the problem. The problem is that these factions that are running our company, they have all got their projects in check, and they're waiting for these futures of these projects to play out. And these are what we call the different timelines, which is actually totally untrue because there are no timelines. But these are the different potential futures playing out by these different types of humans, which are all being activated in different steps in different ways, run through different programs that are running the mind of the human, the mind of the different project in specific ways. Holographic programs, simulations if you like, run as memories of this world, memories of that future, bleed-throughs. These are programs coming in, making your energies go in a specific way, which will develop your specific type of genetics into this physicality. These are the simulation programs, and they are running all the time, and they've been running since the 70s. These are part of some of what the CTES gave in and bridged in using what's called I-cubes. So all of this is kind of, yeah, a lot of stuff is going on, and people are very little aware of it. And at the same time, the children that have no templates that are in any capacity of understanding this, because they're not linked up to all of these programs, are not being activated at all, creating a division between the ones that are activating and the ones that are not activating, which is also a dynamic reflecting the original polarities. So our company is in a state where you can say the board members are not agreeing on how to run it. And they all have their own projects going on, and they are all waiting for these projects to unfold. And that's the problem. And the problem is that in the meantime, everybody's been activating according to their own programs, cleansing out what they need to cleanse out to activate more, or being directed in a specific way to activate in a specific way, so a specific type of consciousness will unfold, which will bridge them into each and one of these factions. And to know if you are part of the Orion stuff, you will not necessarily be a bad guy. On the contrary, because all of these old polarity races, they want to get out of the polarity games because nobody finds them funny anymore. And the dark side just go black hole. Nobody wants to go there. There's only evaporation for that pillar. So that one is kind of out. So it's a matter of, okay, those of us who are activating, are we going to blindly follow the projects that we've been groomed into? Or are we going to say, hey, you might think you're running this company, but actually my template is my template. You might have inserted a lot of shit into it, or you might have groomed me in a specific way, or you might have altered my template in specific ways. But it's my template. Mine. And I'm kind of in this business too. This is my business too. You might sit in the top, but I'm actually part of it. I'm a co-worker, or you can say, no, actually, this is my heritage. This is my world. This is my company too. I want to participate in it. I want to run it in a way. I want to participate in the running of it too. And these are the questions that I would like to inspire in for you to go into, kind of questioning the leadership of your world. And that's the business. And I'm not talking about the physical world, because that's just all a reaction to the causes. I'm talking about the causes. And the causes are the inner realities, the inner factions, which are not the spiritual worlds, because the spiritual worlds are just distortion programs put there so you won't activate. No, I'm talking about the real inner worlds, which are parallel realities in other dimensions, if you like that expression, which is also totally wrong, because that's not actually how they are. They are more correctly, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing, they're more correctly hidden in time. And you say, but time doesn't exist. Well, we are living in a space that is three-dimensional, which is a pyramidal structure. And if you go in between these height, depth, and length, which are creating a space, you have the Einsteinian sciences. Einstein put in the idea of the fourth dimension, which is time. But that's an artificial construction. And that is the bridging point between the other realities that are living in a different vibrational setting, a different type of energy. That's their bridging point into our reality. They are using time, fourth dimension, the Einsteinian principles that were created by Einstein as a thought form, which then become real because people believed in it. So he bridged it in, allowing for these races to work more deliberately inside this reality, mainly in the negatives. But they didn't need that, because they have always been kind of this reality, the projects here, has always kind of been part of the other realities, since these human forms that are here are supposed to bridge into these. Just kind of got sealed off in the middle of all the polarity stuff and all these kind of things, and as the negatives took more and more over and needed more and more energy, they decided to shut everything down, and in that send out the projects that were going on here into total oblivion, so they could use the templates as they like. But this has to end, because you can't create progression and you can't push the evaporation zone back unless people know and remember. So everybody will begin to remember. There will be a huge humongous awakening process. The question is, which is what we need to be observant of, is inside what program, inside what reality, inside what race, inside what do they want to manifest through me in this reality, so they can take over. That is what you need to be observant of. You need to be observant of which faction are you actually belonging to, and what are the storyline that you're getting, and what is the courses that you're getting, and how does it play into your ego and what you want to become, and how does it play into what you feel is something that's very important for you. And this is where I'm trying to say to you, okay, it's not enough for you to progress on your own terms. Say it's all about my progression. It's all about me. It's all about me. I need to wake up. I need to wake up because I want to get my powers back, or I want to get my memories back, or I. No, it's a matter of saying, what are you activating into? What's the purpose of your activation in the world that you're part of? How will you contribute to the company? How will you contribute with your abilities? What will your function be inside the company? And which part of the board are you working under? And in that kind of understanding, okay, I'm working under that faction. And you understand what they're about. And you decide, do you want to still be part of that department? Or do you want to educate yourself into something else that is kind of not running on the old projects, that are not kind of running on the old divisions, that are not kind of part of the polarities, but kind of inventing something entirely new where we do what is called transmutation, where you take everything that you have already got, because that's what the polarities can do at the end when they work correctly. It's not about choosing side. It's a matter of transmute. Transmute energy, transmute consciousness, and create something entirely new. And that's where I come in. That's what I want to do. I don't want to be, I know these factions, know what they're all about. It's kind of, I get it's there, a different department of the company, they will still be there. But I'm working in the department that goes for the transmutation, that goes for the progression back into the full human races, because this is what the full human races can do, and that's why they've moved on. So that is bridging that back in. That is what I want to bridge in. And the transmutation is not about saying, I'll do this so I can leave. You can do that if you like. Leave the company. Totally, if you want to leave the company, leave the company. Because then you learn what you need to learn, and then you will go into another company, or you can travel to another market, or another world, or another universe, and do that. Do that if you want to do that. I don't care. Put it that way. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. However, some of us have to stay to run the company. And in that, those of us who are taking that responsibility, we're saying to ourselves, okay, we want to do not the middle stand, not the integration, because it's not integration light and dark. That's not what it's about. It just turns to gray. The grays are the races that chose the integration. They took light and dark and integrated it into themselves, the polarities, integrated it into the middle point. That just turned them gray. There's no evolution there either. No, it's a matter of above. Understanding both sides, and then begin transmuting. Understanding that the positive alone is not enough, because actually if you just do the positive thing, you actually end out in light worlds where you just become a light being. And that's a problem too, because you can't really progress as a light being. At some point you're just floating around as light. And that's not fun either, because that also just leads to, you're a ball of light, but you're just that sphere of light, and you can't move on because you haven't got anything to progress further. You're just kind of shining there, and eventually some of these light beings decided, okay, that wasn't the right evolution either. Good. I go back in time. I follow my path back, the code stream of my future existence as a light being, and I go back into physical form, and then I do it all over, learning the transmutation instead. Because polarities in this dark one leads to evaporation, and polarities in this light one lead just to light and nothing else. And both ends are kind of keeping up the polarity, but just in its extreme ends. So that's not the solution. The solution is not the middle stand either, because that just leads to some murky gray stuff where there's no progression either. You're kind of stuck in a half android form with the consciousness that can't develop through that form, because it kind of goes with technology and all sorts of weird stuff. So these futures are not good either. So integration is no good of light and dark either. So it has to be the transmutation. Transmutation is literally where you take your old template, and you know how to work with it, you know how to master it, you know how to work with all of its components of potentials and energy and consciousness and expressed form into a huge sphere, which is called an influential sphere from where you master energy and consciousness, and you are aware of what you're creating. Transmutations of your genetics, of everything you've been, of everything you can become, of everything you are, lead to creations. And we want to create. We want to create new worlds, we want to create new universes, we want to create new stuff. We want to use everything that we have learned. Some of it we let be so we can still operate with the negative polarity so we can handle these. Some of it we transmute because we don't want to look at it. And the handling literally just means that you go into a state where you repel each other. We know they're there, but we're not interfering with each other because we know that's not us. So we seal off, so to speak. That's some of the sealing off. But the right sealing off is the full knowledge without interference. That's turning the other cheek. Some of you who are here chose the oblivion because you couldn't turn the other cheek to the dark forces and the polarities. So you kind of chose to go into oblivion. So with the understanding that if you don't look at it and if you don't give it energy, it will eventually evaporate. Which it will. And those of you who've got the oblivion template, you will evaporate your dark side eventually, including that these programs are being taken out. So you won't have to look at it. And some of you have put yourself into oblivion, only focusing on the positive stuff. But that's an unbalance too. because then you will just continue into the love and light futures where you just become a light being. And of course you want to do that, please do that. I'm not telling you not to do so, I'm just telling you these are some of the experiences that have been done by the different races. And that is why the remaining factions that are here are thinking hard about how do we do this. We have learned from all the futures, all the experiences, all the possibilities, everything that can be pulled out of this little planet and this solar system has been played out. So what do we do now? Which one is the right way to go? And this again, as I said, the different projects that have been engineered are all projects that are engineered in a way that they will be center pointed is the best way to put it. Center pointed means to be able to play in each and one of the code streams or timelines, we still prefer that one, no matter what type of reality that's going to play out. And the ones that are most center pointed, as in standing in the right energy, in the right consciousness, in the right code stream, no matter what faction is playing in, will be the one that survives the first round. And from that, these humans that will be able to do so, they will be the ones that will begin to determine what type of future that's then going to be chosen. And that is going to be the play out of the company as it is. So I'm kind of just coming in a little before that and saying, okay, I get that. Let's still do the transmutation. Let's try and figure this out as kind of, we got different players, or whatever you want to call them, factions, and we have all learned the futures. We all know this is going on, and this is how your futures is going to play out. And these factions are not really kind of saying, yeah, that's good. Yeah, we'll still hold on our horses. We still hold on our horses. So that is where time comes in and the prolonging game. And in the meantime, while they're seeing these projects unfold and will discover that they will fail, I suggest that we begin looking at the company and running in a different way. So this is me having built up a little context for those of you who are going to listen more into my videos and listen more into the progression work that I will suggest and how I see a possible future can unfold. And I haven't got any fixed future, because from my understanding, all of you who are coming from these different projects, we will determine together what future we're going to play. And that is going to take a lot of discernment. So this is a total different way of doing progression. It's not a matter of me telling you, oh, go right, go left, go whatever, because I'm no CEO. No, this is a matter of us creating a flat structure, collapsing the pyramid, getting back to the original human projects where everybody was participating with their skills and their capacities and their knowledge, of which some of things were transmuted into something new, which we then build new stuff with. Some of it was remaining in the old, so we wouldn't repeat the mistakes, but still were able to connect with the other universes, because of course we can transmute ourselves totally out of here, but that would not develop the project, the planet, the solar system, and the humans that are here. So that's also responsibility. So it's not a matter of just progressing on your own and saying, oh, I need myself. It's also a matter of saying, okay, what system am I in? And this is nothing to do about saving humanity. Not at all, because there's nothing to save. This is a matter of looking at your world and saying, I want to participate in it, and I want to participate in its evolution, and I want to be one of the participants that have a say in what evolution we're going to choose. So I will leave it there. The sun is coming in, which is nice, but it's kind of making the video not so good. But anyways, who cares? So, okay, thank you for now.